lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those cats were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. Make sure you have expert timing now.
Hello everybody, it's AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick Explores, and today we're going to be covering Kara-Tur. So those of you who don't know what Kara-Tur is, it's essentially the far east of the Forgotten Realms. It was an area that was kind of left blank in the original Forgotten Realms campaign set. The eastern half of the continent of Faerun was reserved for a future publication of Kara-Tur, according to Jim Bambara. While primarily drawing on Japan for inspiration for Kara-Tur, it also contains elements of medieval China and Korea. So what it is it was the fantasy world created by David Cook for the Oriental Adventures rulebook for the first edition of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game in 1986. However, Kara-Tur was slotted in 1987 into the Forgotten Realms campaign setting, essentially retconning all of its lore and things and wedging it into the Forgotten Realms. So it is the mysterious east of the Forgotten Realms. It's on the other side of the continent of Faerun. So on one side, the western side, you've got the Sword Coast. In the middle, you've got the Silver Marches and Thay and other areas. You've got the Desert of Anarok, and you've got the Horse Lords Plains, the Horse Plains with the steppes with the sort of Mongol hordes, and then you've got, and bear in mind these are all fantasy tropes. So this is a fantasy version of China, Korea, Japan, the Ryukyu Islands, Tibet, other regions of East Asia, turned into a fantasy mesh, and all of it is wedged together to create an idealized Oriental adventure world on an alien planet, essentially. So you've got the nations of Shulung, Tulong, you've got Wa, you've got Kazakura, you've got Tabot, you've got Koryo, and of course the Horse Plains. And they're all big, storied elements. So the 10 distinct regions described in the set include, so Shulung is essentially Imperial China. Tulung, historical dissident state, so South China, during areas of political disunity, then you've got Wa, which is essentially the Edo period feudal Japan. Kozakura, which is the Ryukyu Islands of Japan. You've got the Northern Wastes, so that's the historical non-Sinic tribal societies of Manchuria and northeast China. Tabot is, of course, Tibet, and Koryo is Korea. And the island kingdoms of basically pre-colonial Hindu-influenced civilizations of Indonesia and the Philippines. And the Plains of Horses is historical Mongolia, and this is the region of Kara-Tur, portion of the Horde Lands, also known as the Endless Wastes, which is essentially a no-go land to the people of Faerun, so they don't generally travel by land across that area because it's got such a fearsome reputation for brutal brigandry, and it's a brutal wasteland really that people don't travel across. I mean, the merchant caravans don't go there, so nobody does. Why would you? So typically, and of course you've got the jungle lands of Malatra, pre-colonial civilization of Indochina is what that's based on, and the Khmer Empire in Vietnam, as well as the hill tribes inspired by the real-life Southeastern Asian counterparts. So Shulung is the main player. It's a vast human empire, and it's actually one of the most powerful nations ever on the face of Abiatoril. The empire was started by a simple peasant known as Nung Fu, who was invested with the emblems of authority by the 7 legendary, semi-legendary 9 travelers. And it's all the imperial dynasty of China, and it's got that rich sort of imperial court and the celestial court and things. If you talk about the religious practices and talking about that stuff, Wikipedia has got quite detailed information on the Kara-Turan pantheon. So most people in the far eastern lands of Kara-Tur follow one of the two philosophical religions called the Path of Enlightenment and the Way. So this is based on the Oriental traditions. But of course, it's fantasy stuff. So the people of Xiaolong believe in the Celestial Empire headed by the Celestial Emperor, who is served by the 9 immortals. And these are Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion, mercy, and joy. Chan Cheng, god of war, the martial arts, combat, and bravery. Chen He Sing, god of poetry, music, and literature. Qixi, god of history, lore, and tradition. Ai Chehing, goddess of love and marriage. Fa Huan, god of justice. Xing Yong, god of fortune and prosperity. Shi Chia, god of artificers and the arts. And in turn, these are aided by lesser immortals. The Jade Ladies, Rice Spirits, Moon Women, Spirit Warriors, Ladies of Compassion, Lords of Karma, and the Saga, and the Sages. And of course, you've got the Mad Monkey. It's demi-deity of mischief, the Stone Monkey, the Monkey King. And so the current emperor in the book is Kaisao Shao-Chin. Good old Wikipedia. Thank you very much. And boy, there's just so much information to cover. So there's Xiaolong is Imperial China, and Wa is essentially set up as the shogunate Japan, and they're kind of got a feudal Cold War going on between them, but it has erupted into major conflict in the past, where hundreds of thousands of warships battled against each other, and the xenophobic, it's all the stereotypical stuff that you'd have in campaigns where you want maximum amount of intrigue and things like that going on. So you've got ninja assassins, you've got samurais, you've got ronin, you've got feudal kingdoms fighting it out over mysterious lands and things. So it's mimicking things which happened in the past. It's taking elements of the Orient and the ancient history of the Orient that appeals to people, and essentially just shoehorning it into one big giant fantasy setting, and adding in folklore, all sorts of the yokai, the monsters and things like that of Japan and China. So you've got kappa spirits, and you've got lung dragons and all that sort of things. And it's basically what they did with World of Warcraft and putting in the sort of Eastern, you got the pandas and that sort of stuff, Pandarians, whatever they're called, all that sort of stuff. It's Kung Fu Panda. It's a bit of Mulan. It's got dragons and things, and companions. It's got immortal spirits. It's got alchemy and mysticism. It's got demons. It's got all that sort of stuff. And it's an incredibly rich and diverse topic to cover. So I'll come back to specific areas such as Tulang and Wa and Kosakura, and I'll talk about them in more detail later on. But suffice to say, Kara-Tur, that's your introduction to it, where it is, what it is, and I'll give you some links down below, so that you can investigate it in more detail if you want to, some of the history and things. As I say, it's a very rich setting, and there's a lot of information there. So if you request, I can go to individual areas if you want me to cover individual places, and just let me know, and I'll cover those in more detail and some of the history and things like that. So this series of explores is pretty much led by you and your requests, and I just want to know where you want to go, and that will take me exploring those areas as well. Because a lot of them, like Kara-Tur, for instance, I didn't have a lot of experience with it. It's kind of daunting when you look at all that information. But that's a basic brief overview of the area for you, and where it is located in the Forgotten Realms with all these maps. So just to give you an update on a wider picture of the continent of Faerun for an area which is not that often explored. And of course, offshore, further east, is the mysterious continent of Osi, and we'll probably cover some of that in future videos. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is a relatively brief one from me for this time, But yeah, I can cover it in more detail later on. I'll catch you again very soon on the weekend with another Monster Ecology series.